Hello friends, let's start with the hottest spot on our planet, the Middle East. While Israel is conducting operations in the Gaza Strip, nature is also doing its thing, hitting Israel. The capital of that country is in the embrace of endless rain. The city's drainage system has failed to cope with the heavy rainfall and the streets have turned into rivers. Roads are flooded, the first floors of houses are underwater, power outages are reported in some neighborhoods, and the population is gripped by panic. Witnesses to the events are actively sharing recordings and photos on social networks. Many drivers were caught by the inclement weather right on the roads. They had to leave their cars and try to get out on their own. At present, traffic in the affected areas has been restored. In addition, forecasters recorded a water tornado, which scares the residents of the coast. According to local media, difficult weather conditions have hampered Israel's strategic military operations. Emergency services are working around the clock. There is a search for the injured and missing. There is no reliable information about the time of elimination of the consequences of heavy precipitation. A decision on possible evacuation of the population has not yet been taken. Terrible events are unfolding in the Gaza Strip, turning it into a nightmare trap for civilians after massive bombardment. We will not touch on the military and political aspects of the situation and will leave them to professionals and experts. However, we cannot ignore the human side and the humanitarian catastrophe that is developing in that enclave. The total blockade is turning the Gaza Strip into a death zone. Medical facilities are in a critical condition. All major hospitals, whether for adults or children, are completely or partially destroyed. Casualty capacity and medicine supplies are running out. Those medical facilities that are still functioning are struggling with fuel shortages, with only no more than a 2-day supply. The power system is also failing due to the blockade, and the only power plant in the enclave is suspended. Gazans are forced to rely on generators and car batteries to charge their phones, but those resources are also insufficient. Food and water are scarce, and locals are forced to use salt water from wells. The UN agency that supports Palestinian refugees has already called the events in the Gaza Strip an unprecedented human catastrophe. The agency's Commissioner General, Philippe Lazzarini, noted that residents of the enclave are literally suffocating as they have not been allowed to bring in water, bread, or fuel in the past few days. The sanitation situation is also a concern. Local cemeteries are running out of space, and the bodies of the deceased can no longer fit in morgues, and ice cream trucks have to be used. Representatives of the World Health Organization warn of the threat of spreading epidemics. What does the future hold for these people? Where can they find support and resources to survive? These are questions that cannot yet be answered. The ordinary people of the Gaza Strip are only striving to live normal lives and provide a normal future for their children, despite all the difficulties. Let us return to discussing the weather, but let us continue to stay in the Middle East. There was a massive sandstorm in Jordan, and these impressive scenes were filmed near the city of Azraq in the east of the country. The distance to the capital Amman is only 100 kilometers. However, as you can see, sarcasm is unacceptable here because you can hardly see anything because of the orange wall of sand. Visibility is severely limited and locals have difficulty in orienting themselves in their surroundings. Drivers seem to be struggling to navigate the roads in such weather conditions. Strong winds are blowing clouds of red sand, covering roads, houses, and cars. Local authorities are urging people to stay indoors and stay off the roads in such situations. Let's move on to the United States. where a major fire broke out near a railroad station. The event took place in the city of Bakersfield, California. This city is the largest and administrative center of Kern County and is populated by more than 400,000 people. The first reports of the fire on California Avenue came in at about 2:50 p.m. local time. Witnesses reported heavy smoke, which is certainly understandable. When rescuers arrived on the scene, they found flammable tanker trucks and wooden pallets. Thick black smoke could be seen for many kilometers. At the moment, the fire has already been localized, but the consequences and the presence of victims remain unclear. It is interesting to note that U.S. residents witnessed an unusual phenomenon during the annular solar eclipse this Saturday. Almost all objects cast crescent-shaped shadows. What was also surprising was that in some states, the temperature dropped by 2 to 3 degrees during this eclipse. Scientists from the Idaho National Weather Service explained that such phenomena don't happen very often and are due to the special radiant effect of the sun's rays. The next eclipse is scheduled for April 2024, but this time it will be total, not annular. Lake Titicaca in Bolivia is now experiencing historically low water levels. Now, instead of the highest navigable lake in the world, you can see a crackling dried-up land. This situation is having a serious impact on the population, who can no longer rely on the lake's water, as well as the animals who have lost their source for drinking. Experts explain that the region is facing extremely high temperatures this year. Between August 2022 and March 2023, rainfall was nearly 50% below normal. Locals are worried about this because Lake Titicaca used to be a popular destination for tourists, which boosted the region's economy. Now, to have any access to water, locals have to dig deep wells. Not only is this expensive, but it doesn't always lead to success. Residents have repeatedly appealed to the government to solve this situation, but so far to no avail. The authorities are not ready to allocate funds to fight the drought. In France, activists of the last renovation movement became active again. This time they painted the Yen Bridge near the Eiffel Tower with orange paint. The movement insists on the urgent need to draw the government's attention to climate change, as well as to address the issue of thermal insulation of French homes. Last Renovation is known for its protests. Previously, their members have held actions such as pouring red paint on a Louis Vuitton store and blocking the headquarters of the party that came to power in France. Members of the movement argue that such actions are necessary to draw attention to environmental issues and climate change and hope that this will force the government to respond to these issues in a more proactive manner. An innovative laser for shipwreck disposal was presented in the Sakhalin region. The working principle of this invention is quite simple. A laser beam cuts a part of the ship without contact, after which underwater divers extract this fragment to the shore. What is interesting is that this equipment can cut metal at a distance of up to 300 meters and can effectively work with both surface and underwater parts of the ship. It takes an average of 1 to 2 weeks to dismantle one ship. The authorities plan to dispose of 16 ships in the town of Korsakov and another 19 on Paramusher Island. It should be noted that one of the main advantages of such a laser is its ability to work in environments dangerous to humans, where traditional methods of lifting ships are impossible. In Kazakhstan, a 96-year-old veteran of the Great Patriotic War, Nikolai Kurilenko, convinced that age is no barrier to sports. He decided to take part in a bicycle race organized in honor of Republic Day. And it is important to note that Nikolai is not inferior to young athletes and fervently emphasizes that sport is of great importance in his life. The length of the bicycle race was 5 kilometers, and Nikolai passed this distance with confidence and determination. As the veteran explains, he does not let difficulties become a barrier to his activities and continues to fight regardless of his age. Adorable footage full of cuteness is coming from the Moscow Zoo. Din Din, a small red-listed panda, is growing by leaps and bounds. Recently, the experts conducted a scheduled checkup not in the incubator, and the baby has grown stronger, feeling confident in the fresh air. This cub, the first in Russia, was born on August 30th. On September 24th, zoo doctors determined its sex. It is a girl. The parents of the newborn, Zhui and Ding Ding, were brought to Moscow by a special flight from Beijing in 2019. And finally, to conclude, we present to you the magnificent footage from Armenia, where dozens of balloons rose into the sky over Yerevan. This is part of the international festival Discover Armenia from the Sky. It is wonderful that this year children from Nagorno-Karabakh can also take off in balloons and enjoy this amazing experience. The event includes 2 stages, exhibition and sports. In addition to Armenian participants, the festival will be attended by crews from different parts of the world, including Bulgaria, Brazil, Great Britain, Germany, Georgia, Germany, Lithuania, Russia, and Japan. The festival started on Saturday and will run until October 18th. Its main goal is to unlock the potential for adventure tourism among locals and on the world stage. Friends, our channel is certainly not focused on politics, but on stories about disasters, incidents, ecology, and people's stories. However, it is also important to discuss public issues, social problems, and humanitarian disasters. We cannot avoid the topic of the blockade of the Gaza Strip. I would like to know your personal opinion about what is happening and your attitude to this conflict. What do you think can be done to improve the situation? Regarding the flooding in Israel, the question arises, is it an accident or perhaps a sign? How do you perceive the effect of shadows during a solar eclipse? Have you watched something like this before? As for environmental activism, don't you think that in some cases it can turn into useless actionism that serves the interests of certain groups and goals to the exclusion of real environmental change? And, of course, what is your opinion about a veteran from Kazakhstan who at 96 years old remains active? This is truly an inspiring example for younger generations. Please share your opinions in the comments. May peace and goodness always be with you and your families, and don't forget to take care of our common home, our planet, always remaining people with a capital letter.